guys, Michael here, and welcome back to the third part of the mini-series on how to make a pushable box in UDK. In this episode I'm going to be talking about how you can use the box we've created to activate an event. So what I've made a few changes to the scene since last time, and what I've done is I've turned this into an interpactor, added a trigger and added a interpactors over here. So I'll start off by showing what I'm going to be teaching you today. Just realign this. So I'm going to start off by simply pushing the box off the edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it over to where the trigger is. Well, near. The way I've currently got it set up is that the trigger that is on top of the pressure pad can get triggered by the player. So when the player's stood in the middle, as you can see, a series of events. But when they walk off, the whole setup then reverses. And of course, based on distance, there isn't enough time for the player to run over here to jump up the stairs. But what we can do is use this box. So we push the box onto the pressure pad, the pad moves down and the box moves down, and this allows the steps to remain in an upright position. So let's look at the Kismet and how this whole setup works. This whole set is very simple. Using the trigger we have on top of the pressure plate here, we simply have that coming off from a touched and an untouched event going into a matinee sequence. And then from that matinee sequence on the completed, so once the matinee is looped through, it then comes out and plays another matinee sequence. And this is the same for reversed going into reverse. And what this setup does, is the first one controls the movement of the pressure pad. So this controls that going up and down. The second one, the second matinee sequence, I can get that into view, controls the ladders, well, the stairs going up and down. So what happens here is when the player touches this, it goes into the first matinee, the pressure pad, and makes that play. So that makes the pressure pad go down. Once the pressure pad has gone down on the completed, we come from there into the play of the next matinee, which is the stairs, and this then causes that to play. When the player then leaves and untouches the trigger, from the untouch it goes into the reverse, which then causes the first matinee sequence, so the pressure pad causes that to then go back up. And then coming from the reversed, we then go into the reverse of the second one, so the stairs matinee, and this causes that to then, the stairs to then go back down. And this is how you get it so that the player can activate it, but when they leave, it then goes back down. However, we want it so that the trigger can also, we also want the box, so the box can activate the trigger. So what we have set on the trigger, on the touch types and the class proximity types, instead of changing the one that's normally there, which is pawn, we've actually added a second one. So this means the pawn, well, a pawn and an instigator can then activate this trigger. What we also have then is, from the touched on the trigger, we have it coming down onto a compare objects. And compare objects can be very useful because it allows us to compare, in some cases, what objects have actually touched certain objects. So we could have it where, for example, we could have a bunch of K actors that are moving around a room, but we only want it, for example, open a door when a particular K actor opens the door, touches the trigger. And the thing about the touch types on the trigger is you can't specify an individual object to trigger it. So using the compare object, it allows us to do this. So, so using an instigator of the trigger, so what's touched it, what's activated the trigger, we put that into the compare object. So whenever this is triggered, it fills whatever's touched it in here, and then obviously it comes down from the touched into the compare. So it compares what's touched it with an item you wish to activate a certain event. So in this case we have the box as the interactor here. So when something's touched this and this happens to match the box, it allows it to come from here, which is A equals B, and this goes into another matinee sequence. So I'll quickly show you what that sequence does. So if we come over here, this causes the box to move down. We have this for a few reasons. The first reason, of course, is so when the pressure pad goes down, the box also goes down with it. So the box itself isn't left floating. Another reason why we move this down is because it's to do with the collision. Of course, in this scenario, I don't want the player to be able to move the box once it's on the pressure pad. So using that matinee sequence to move the box down, it causes, I allow it to move down just enough so it's touching this, this interpact is touching the collision triggers on the side, which means that all 4 triggers get activated, meaning that the player can no longer push the box. And yeah, it is as simple as that. So using compare objects, you can specify certain objects to trigger an event, like so. So it could be a case of you could have 3 boxes and you only want one specific box to cause a pressure plate to move down. So it could be based on, I don't know, weight. So you could have 3 different size boxes, 3 different size pressure pads. You know, so you want the bigger boxes to move down the bigger pressure pads. Yeah, things like that. And this would allow you to specify which box you wish to actually trigger an event. So yeah, it's as simple as that. This is how you can use objects to activate a series of events and how you can use them to influence other things. Another quick thing I also want to talk about is attachments on objects. Of course, in the first episode we attached all the triggers and the dynamic triggers to the box. The beauty of doing this is if you ever then matinee the box itself, like we have done in the box drop, everything else also moves with it. And in this matinee sequence, the only thing that we have in it is the box. So there's no need, because everything, all the triggers are attached to the box, we don't need to individually matinee the dynamic trigger volumes, the triggers, to get them to move. And this can be very useful to, in some cases, to create very complex movements and animations, even though without having to individually move every individual sort of piece. For example, here I could have attached one side to each one of these instead of individually matineeing all 6 of them. That's also one use. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's helped you solve some potential problems that you may have come across, or maybe just looking for inspiration, perhaps looking for a new way of doing something. I hope you've enjoyed the mini-series, and thank you for watching.